Our first spoken language is not our mother tongue. Even if we are poets, most of the stories we tell are told without our words, or even despite our words. We learn another language first. We speak in body language. It's very easy to get lost without this language because it's found every time we do or we don't look someone else in the eye. And most adults don't even realize when they speak it or how they reply. Most babies speak engagement and disengagement in 100 ways before they ever say mama or dada or why can't I have more computer time? We drink in that wine long before we pour it into the adjective, noun, verb glass of a sentence. So all of us are bilingual, even if we only speak English. And our native languages are often at war. How often do we hear the clink of those glasses at cocktail hour? Almost everyone's been at a party with two lovers in a public-private argument. They might seem, on the surface, to be talking about their vacation to Manzanillo and scarfing back some god-awful hipster combination of olives and crickets and goat cheese. But they're actually in a brawling boxing ring, and we all have ringside seats, don't we? In one corner, there's verbal masking. In the other, non-verbal physicality. And non-verbal language has several large, angry arms. Science says small talk doesn't stand a chance. See, it's all about face first. Other physicality can mean very different things in different cultures, but we universally tend to use the same faces for the same feelings. So, at the friendly, uneasy drinkies, well, his crocheted picot eyebrow and seamed lipless tells us what his social lips do not. He is pissed. And her pulled corners and narrowed blinds, they tell us even more. They have an unsettled score. We can add gestures, postures, and tone to the domestic battle. We got Rottweiler fingers and hissing backs of hands, arms crosser than a Christian god, or feet pointed towards any mission but each other, vocal ranges flatter than alkali, or spiked acid in a sneer of sarcasm, or that universal irritated sigh, which will be denied if mentioned. I didn't say anything, except we all did say something, didn't we? Just not in English. And eye contact is key in a lock that doesn't match this evening because his pupils have contracted, her blinking has slowed, and almost everyone knows without knowing they know that this means dislike as much as a thumbs down. Now, proximity can also become weaponry. They circle the chatter with as much distance as possible between them. Voices slightly too loud, laughter slightly too hard. The Morse code of the gap between where his hand would usually greet her waist, or between where their thighs usually press tight together in chairs side by side. All body language is now blows of angry anti-haptic pride. And when she wears the dress he hates, she is wearing a middle finger. It's called an artifact, an avatar for her current anger. And we all know what they're saying here. They both definitely know what they're saying here. Even though all of this conversation occurs over 10 minutes of seemingly bland banter about Mexican vacation elation, snorkeling with sad-ass dolphins, and puking margaritas into another beautiful sunrise. Is it any wonder social events terrify anxious people? I mean, however delightfully I design metaphors and similes, my body is speaking to your body with much more intricate and immediate nonverbal fluency, even if I'm not paying attention. This is called pragmatic communication, and more than half of it isn't angry like our social Spartans. It is loving, affirming, connecting. And I wish I could be a loving pragmatist with my own body the way I am with my overall existence. I am very socially anxious, non-verbally dyslexic. I'm a high physical, high sensory, high intensity creature, but I was 3 pounds at birth. And I spent my first 3 months in an incubator, back before science confirmed that babies do in fact require a lot of touching. And then I was sent home to an all languages war zone. It takes a litany of verbal battery to overcome the first tongue. A language that is almost never spoken has its tongue cut out. I am a survivor of childhood verbal and nonverbal abuse. Consider cases like this trauma training and the perversion of a person's primary language. Artifacts included a waist-length pigtail chewed off in first grade, a glass-backed hairbrush, a broken vase and a verbal consequence, a spoiled carton of juice and a lesson basement, a lonely Greyhound bus. And most of all, giant armful, lungfuls of empty where cuddling and snuggling and hand-holding and hugging were meant to have parental definitions. The only languages left untouched were sex, anger, and fear. One of the most effective ways to destroy a language is to prevent someone from ever properly speaking it. It creates a ghoul yearning that lacks the body of its own expression. So I'm forever grateful to Mrs. Marsh, my second grade teacher in Cold Lake, Alberta. In a childhood I struggled to remember clearly, I forever recall her chestnut brown bobbing over her apple doll eyes, her soft British sibilance tipping the silver chair across my classroom floor. She ran her well-educated eyes over the troubled braille of my snail shell spine, and she offered me poetry. She even invited me to her house once for candied neon citrus fruits, E.E. Cummings and cambric tea, and she told me, words can always say more than one thing. Poetry is a language all of its own. It's for the feelings and experiences you don't have any other way to speak. And she hugged me when I left. I remember the flats of her hands on my sharp blades. I never wanted to leave. But at least I wrote a rhyming couplet poem about the sword in the stone. And she pushed me to share it in green tights and curly-toed shoes with a Sherwood Park medieval lark group. So I spoke my very first poem off of a scroll on a stage. Maybe this was foreshadowing. Even though I rarely spoke my own poetry again for 20 years, page or stage poetry saved me. It found me when I got lost. It chased me down alleys. Poetry loved me when I spilled ugly. Poetry became me when I lost all my other shapes. When I was 8, I read the dictionary as a love story. Words roll for me in sheets ever since, like my body became a sea of ink in thankful translation. But English is still not my first language. And I'm grateful for Sherry D., who swept into a saloon where I was all scatter-eye reconstructions and no follow-through. She was a tall streak of auburn defiance and space claiming and a laugh like a street party. But silent, she still sketched sonnets with a smirk and a quilled eyebrow. She sang haikus with the heavy drop of a silent hand. And she taught me that my first language wasn't lost entirely. I could still speak body language outside of an adult bedroom. On the safety of the stage where proximity is controlled, tone is trained, gestures are defined, and eye contact is a different sport entirely, poetry, my second language, could bridge back to the honesty of my silent home speech. I could unpick the mangled translations from my body and begin to properly speak this syntax that was stolen from me. And this gift has been vital to my journey and my recovery. Off the stage, of course, it's still much more challenging. Sometimes it feels like apraxia is verb physicality, like statue making. Should I go over there? Do they look like I'll interrupt them? What did that eyebrow mean? His body is turned away. Should I stop talking now? Are my arms crossed? Am I sitting up straight? They put their arm around my shoulders. I want them to put their arm around my shoulders, but oh my dear gods, their arm is around my shoulders. What do I do? How long will this last? Am I too tense? Should I put my arm around theirs too? Does this feel as foreign and weird to them as it does to me? Why can't I relax? They make it look so easy. And then the arm is gone, and I am both briefly relieved and hugely disappointed. I'm still, obviously, a socially anxious person. Sometimes I feel like I barely have skin as a second language in a room of full-bodied linguists. And then I have to go back to basics. I go back to the non-verbal grammar that I worked hardest to learn and learned first. Touch, a hug. Simple and well-defined, the language of platonic pores greeting. Because it's harder to learn a language as an adult, but the hold of gravity isn't enough for me. And I remember the first time my best friend Carrie hugged me properly. Her softness held my awkwardness with no expectations beyond our mutual being, and I want that always. I want prayers of palm on the spine of my world. I want the latch of your safety over my small in the back of the big unknown. I want longer than a clasp and dash. I want pulsed conversations. I want synchronized breaths play. And I have no Rosetta Rose chords to learn any of this dialect. I feel wrist stutter and elbow stiff and shoulder stuck, but I fight to shake off the locks of blood rust. I open my chest trust to my special few, and I ask you, hug me, please. Give me hugs like homecoming, drunken rhombus hugs, round posse hugs, or triangle hugs built for three. I like bro hugs, low hugs, high hugs, cry hugs, heart hugs where left meets left in the right ways, or spade hugs that dig away like graves. Club hugs sparkled like diamonds left in their caves. I want hugs that are headlocks, that are keys, that melt ice, that melt time, that melt knees. I want dash, dash, ampersand, asterisk, whole language in one firm grip. I want hugs that are bridges and rainbows and puppies, hugs with more Frisian than actually fucking. Hugs that remind and rewind and rewrite the common history between these dagger elbows and those knock-knock knees. Blinded by biggest and bigger and big and little deaths, we reach out for stability. Our 7 billion bodies hugging wailing babies, wiggling toddlers, whining teenagers, sisters and brothers, mommy and daddy hugs making it all better, grandmas and stuffies and friends and lovers and every in-between. These hugs holding me, you, us, them, and we, they might be hard like spoon bending or easy like covalent bonding. But when you wrap me in your embrace, this is our safer space. And I know I can live without the squeeze of your certainty. See, I've held my own in a clinch for as long as necessary. But I don't want to today. People feel armless and ready to go off. I feel lonely in the cloud. I clumsy stumble solo like I'm odd one out. Like I fumble touch every wrong wall word in a social maze that won't lead me where I want to go anyways. So I reach out. Past all these damn dead languages hissing the haunts of old ghosts in my lungs. I reach out and I ask, if you wish, hold me like tomorrow and yesterday, wrapped around now until now remembers where it is and how good it is to be here. Fold me up like I am a gift. I have a childhood of width and holding to make up for. Hug me like you forgive every mistake I haven't made yet, like we're getting out of this alive, like you don't think I'll break, like you'll hold it all together, even though you can't and you won't, because I would never let you try. But hug me like a children's bedtime story. Let our rhythms rest in the transient nest of chest, shoulder, and side. Because you don't have to speak any other language. This is the first. This is the last. The embrace of the earth, the pressure and energy between two beings. This is the whole open circle of new moon mouth fully breathing. I am coming back to this. My mother could not teach me, but my body, language, is beautiful. And this is my mother tongue. Thank you.